So welcome everybody to our Monday night empowerment session. And I am blown away that we are already at our 60th recording. And tonight I'm excited because I get to teach on something called Solle Principles that I wrote and presented at the most recent Solle Convention in Florida. And to me, it's about why Solle works. And because the convention was centered around the idea of our inner superpowers and what we can bring to the table, I thought that was very appropriate because to me, this is about Solle Naturals' inner superpowers and why these formulas work regardless of what's going on. So let's just jump right in here and let's talk about the idea of a principle. And before we get into that, I would like to have you take a moment and think. How many of you would agree that trust is the most important thing that can be brought to the table in a relationship? I know for myself, absolutely it is. And for that reason, because of certain things that had been proven to me by my husband before we were even dating, I realized he was a very principled man and that I could trust what he said he was going to follow through with. No matter what was coming up, if he decided to change it, he would change it. And so to me, that ties right into Solle because I trust Solle. And in order to understand what it is, let's look at the word principle. What does principle relate to? It means you can depend upon it. It has to do with the doctrine that something's built on, the bedrock, the foundation, the fundamentals, means it's steadfast and comes to truth. Otherwise, if we say someone's principled or they're standing on their principles, these are things that in essence you can take to the bank. So Solle principle number one, for me, is specifically this, that safety and efficacy comes from using premium whole plant powders and extracts. And let's look at what the word efficacy, which means the capacity or power to produce a desired effect. We have all heard from Blake about the powers and the ability, the great emphasis he has put on our manufacturing and making certain that we have the best clean rooms, the best quality formulas. But also what happens is we have these ideal premium whole plant powders and extracts, which means no matter what, because we're bringing the whole plant to the table, we have all those checks and balances in place. Now, why do I tie this into a picture of him on a cutting horse? Well, if you've ever ridden a cutting horse, you know that they're very quick moving and they anticipate the cow's direction that's going to go. So to be able to be connected with that horse and have that horse bounce back and know exactly what's going to go on, that to me also represents kind of our ability with these formulas, because we're using whole plant powders and extracts, for them to be able to work with no matter what the situation presents, because we have that whole plant there with all the checks and balances. It is bringing it all to the table. And I know for myself, when I decided to teach myself to ride bareback, I did it. I got a cutting horse out. It actually was one of the top cutting horses, and I got on there bareback. I figured if I could stay on there, that I could ride anything, and it worked. So with Solle having this as a primary principle, we know that these formulas can deliver. So as a society, we really have come to expect a quick fix for everything. And that we even see that in our alternative approach to health, which is not necessarily ideal. Let's use an example here. And in this case, example might be with a headache or pain. A symptomatic approach for that would be herbally, you might use the plant white willow bark because it is known for its ability to work on pain. However, if we wanted to take a foundational approach, we might look at what might be the underlying causes for this. Could this be colon issues, liver, stress, hormones? Could it be they're not drinking enough water? What's going on? But what we're looking for is something that gives long-term relief. Both approaches work, but one, when you're working with the symptomatic approach, you have to keep going back to it time after time after time. Whereas when we're working with the foundational approach, we're looking at having a long-term result and ideally having many of those symptoms disappear. And if they come back, they are themselves temporary as opposed to becoming an ongoing item. Solle principle number two, all our products or all our formulas are designed with a foundational approach in mind. Many of you are very familiar how I use the symbology of the tree for this foundational approach when we work with Solle products. If we think of the leaves as a true expression of the health of the tree, and then we compare that to a person, an expression for us might be, do we get headaches? Do we have eye problems? Do we have joint issues? Or are we very healthy and being able to get around and move around well? So compared to the tree, bright, beautiful green leaves, or we've got some diseased leaves or leaves that are dead in areas, or maybe a dead branch. Well, that's what we're talking about with that temporary or symptomatic approach. We will be addressing the leaves, but Solle products are all designed to address and feed the roots with some symptomatic results as well, or temporary, going after that temporary issue. Because we're feeding the roots, we're looking at getting the nutrition in, we're looking at making certain that toxins are being addressed, that genetics are being supported, that we're working with traumas or stresses that might be involved. We're feeding those roots so that over time, the tree and or your health is having a better and all around healthy approach. And one of the amazing benefits when you have something like this is you often get additional unexpected benefits. I cannot count the number of times that people would come back to see me, or we've seen them on their follow-up appointment, and they're like, wow, this, and this that I was concerned about is getting so much better. But what I didn't expect was now, my hair quit falling out, or whatever this was. That's because I'm looking at these issues from the foundational understanding, and because the Solle products address it with a foundational approach. Again, this is very common to have those additional unexpected benefits come about. Our Solle principle number 3, all formulas are adaptogen based. And why is this important? Adaptogens are safe. They're so safe that, for instance, right there, that is my youngest granddaughter. I have had no hesitation whatsoever with using products for her when my daughter was pregnant with her. And then, from when she started being able to need them, whether it was at 1 month old or a couple months old, and so much so that this child immediately, like we know a lot of our Solle children and Solle babies, they recognize the drinks and they go for them. Well, they're also so safe that I can use them on my elderly clients as well, someone in their 90s or someone who's failure to thrive. Because adaptogens are safe, I'm not having to worry about that. That combined with our attention to quality and purity and not having the toxins or heavy metals makes them even more safe. So another thing is no one is exempt from stress. Nobody has that golden ticket, no matter what stress looks like to you. Nobody gets out without having some sort of stress. Even our good friend Jordan, who we know is acts like he doesn't ever have anything going on, always happy-go-lucky. I guarantee no matter what, because I've raised 6 kids, that having 6 kids, even though it's fun, there is stress involved. And remember, your body can't tell the difference between types of stress, whether it's good stress, like an upcoming wedding, or if it's stress because of a recent death in the family, or maybe even a surgery. Stress is stress, and adaptogens address stress. Adaptogens, a good way to look at how adaptogens work is consider them, compare them to like shock absorbers. And you know what? Life's got a lot of potholes. We do not get a straight shot through all this. But if we look at our adaptogens as being like our shock absorbers for life, they really do help the wheel or the structure, the car, to be able to go through the potholes without being so impacted by these potholes. And so that is the role that I like to use to demonstrate how adaptogens support the body, because you never know what life's going to throw at us. And with adaptogens, we can more successfully navigate that road that's in front of us. Solle principle number 4, all products are formulated to simultaneously address both physical and emotional issues. Guys, this is amazing. And I don't know if you realize the power in this. As a result, people feel better. Guess what happens when people feel better? They follow through on their programs because they're feeling better, so they stick to it. How many times have maybe you've experienced it, or you've had people that come to you, they're like, well, I tried such and such, but I couldn't tell a result. Well, you know what? Sometimes those results take a while to get, But with adaptogens, we see a very quick impact on how we feel emotionally and mentally. And when we feel better about something, we naturally follow through quicker and do a better job of it. And I think this is very important that you are aware that Solle Naturals was the very first company to do this by making every single formula. Every formula, guys, is designed to do this, both of these at once. So this is something that's makes us stand out as a company, and is something that you can count on. Our Solle Principle number 5 is that it has a simplified 4-category approach. Many of you might remember back when we had convention in California, I taught a class called Solle Simplified. And basically looking at each of these categories, which we have are balance, lift, calm, or clarify. And in those categories, does the situation that's presenting, do we need to balance it? Do we need to lift it? Do we need to calm it, or do we need to clarify it? Very simple. And an example might be, let's think of someone who maybe is dealing with maybe a child that's nervous about first day to school, back to school, because here we are in back to school time. So that child, no matter what, maybe it just needs to be balanced because they're bouncing around with their moods. They're happy, they're excited, and then they're scared, and then they're anxious. And so bring it into balance, but we also need to calm it so that they feel settled and be able to move forward. So right there, we already know which 2 categories to look at. And if we go and look at the balance and the calm categories, we find a product out of both of those that can support that, that's appropriate for that child and their situation. We have very quickly been able to identify products to work on getting the results. The other neat thing is there's no credentials required to help people when you use this type of approach, and the way that all of our products fall into one or the other of these categories. It is simple. You don't have to have as many years in the field as I've had to get the same results that I can get with helping people by simplifying it this way. So another thing is there's multiple starting points, and keep in mind, all of them work because they're all adaptogens based. Whether you're looking at the primary balance package as your place to start, the Bella Health, which you see me teach a lot, whether we're using a starter kit or you're using the product selector, because they all are adaptogen based. And remember, adaptogens are going to help deal with whatever's thrown at us in life. They're going to help deal and support us mentally and emotionally. And they come at foundationally, no matter what, people are going to start getting results. And they may get unexpected results. You know, you don't have to be perfect on this, because no matter what, you're going to start to garner changes and improvements in the body. You can fine tune it as you go. And if you trust the process and know that the body is designed to heal regardless, and you stick with it, then the results do come. Solle Principle number 6, consistency in product usage will result in unexpected and more long-term benefits. And I've always taught it's like building up your health savings account. The more you take it on a daily basis, your body actually has gone from being in a health deficit. Maybe you were getting, overdraft notices from your body saying, hey, we need help, please. So when you consistently take it, not only do you start getting your health savings account up to where you're no longer getting those overdraft notices, but you're also building it up and getting more value there and more in your health savings account. So you actually have something to spend in case you have an unexpected emergency. And that consistency, and I will say, from the moment we got the Solle Naturals products in our hands, and that was little over about 9.5 years ago, we, as in Troy and myself, have taken these every single day. Our consistency has been able to come in and help support and build up that health savings account. And as a result, it does help us to better weather the storms of life, that consistency. Whether or not, as we see the picture here with Kristen Brunius's family, she was on that epic fishing trip that we took in May with a bunch of the Solle family, 30 plus of us, of which all but 6 were throwing up and having, it was some rough water, and the captain was having a good time. The neat thing is, and Kristen's daughter did not know it, that's there in the pink, Miss Kinley, I was challenging one of my own fears, which is fear of water. I don't swim I can't hardly swim at all. And so because of adaptogens, both Kinley and I did fantastic. And we were able to bounce back from the trip as along with all the other people that were also puking and upchucking. And you know what? It became a great story. And then, of course, many of you know the challenges that our family faced in the last year and a half. There's no doubt in my mind that had Troy and I not been consistently taking these products, neither himself or myself would be here today to talk about it. Those adaptogens made all the difference in the world. So again, you never know what life is going to throw at you. And those adaptogens, having those, that consistent usage and having that health account built up is a game changer. When you use adaptogens on a regular basis, you see an overall improved quality of life. Many of us know the story, Rachel's story, and everything that she's overcome. There is no doubt in anybody's mind the changes and the gift of life and the gift of quality of life that she has received. And the neat thing is, she is not alone in her story. At this point, we have hundreds, if not thousands of people that have gotten results that may not be as extreme as what Rachel got to see, realized, or like what we saw in my household, but people have seen that overall quality of life. That's something I've heard from people on a regular basis, how they were able to navigate the last year and a half easier, how when they look back over time, they can see in pictures the difference in how they look. It may be subtle changes, but once you get that comparison, there is no doubt that overall quality of life has improved. And Solle Principle number 7. And I'm sorry I'm going through these kind of quick. I did it much, longer time period when I did it at convention, but wanted to make certain that I went over these. And that is the power of the soul collective mindset. And to me, that is evidence. Anytime that we get together as a soul family, whether it is a small group gathering of maybe 5 or 10 or 50 of us, or if it's a huge group gathering like we might have at convention where we've got hundreds of us together, you can feel it in the room. It is palpable, the love, the respect, the family that is there. And that collective mindset is so powerful. And as it ripples out and impacts more and more people, to me, it is so powerful that it almost is a given that when you become a part of Soul, you will get the opportunity to experience this. And trust me, once you do, you will always want it to be part of your life. In fact, it's very common. And again, this last time when we left just a couple of weeks ago, the most recent Soul Convention, the minute you're leaving, you're talking about all the amazing times and you cannot wait to be back. So this again is another one of the principles. So let's look at these 7 principles. In total, they are: number 1, you can count on the safety and efficacy that comes with using those premium whole plant powders and extracts. Number 2, remember that all products, every one of them, are formulated with a foundational approach in mind. 3rd, all formulas are adaptogen based. Number 4, all products are formulated to simultaneously address both physical and emotional health issues. And remember, again, we were the first. Number 5, everything is based on a simplified 4-category approach. Number 6, consistency in product use will result in long-term benefits. And number 7, that power of the soul collective mindset. So now I want to leave you with a little bit of a challenge. This was printed in 2019, and this is before, keep this in mind, this is before we stepped into the pandemic. It says, according to the National Health Council, about 133 million Americans are living with a chronic illness now. By next year, half the population will live with at least one chronic illness. With the Soul formulas and the game changers that they are, and the fact that you can see about the safety and the efficacy and what consistent use does and how they impact everyone emotionally, mentally, and physically as well, you have tools. And with the simplicity of the 4 categories, you have tools, you have formulas to make a difference in people's lives. I want to challenge you to take advantage of that and to do that. This statistic has more than started coming true. And it's sad, and people don't have to be this way. I'm a big believer that when we have information or have what we believe is a solution to help people, that is our responsibility to pay it forward and make people aware of at least a potential option that they might be able to grab to help them. So again, I want to challenge you to take this and what you know with these soul products just from what they've done for you and reach out to help someone. And everybody knows, of course, our vital sign now. And here it is in Costa Rica, Granny Soul sharing that vital sign. Again, another amazing testimony to what Soul has done. Let's see. And so there it goes. One of the quotes I wanted to share with you is that principles are what allow you to live a life that is consistent with those values, and principles connect your values to your actions. And that to me is so important because Soul has definitely connected the principles to the values and the end result. It all is playing out together. You cannot separate one from the other. I can take these principles of Soul to the bank. I can trust that they will deliver consistently, no matter where I am, no matter who is sharing them. And that to me is beyond important. And so now I've asked Greg to share a little bit as to what I'm calling soul power, or why he thought that this message was so important to have shared with at convention. So I'm going to stop the share here. And do you need me to make you a co-host, Greg?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Valerie. Yeah, I'm just pondering over your slides. And I got to hear it at convention, probably, I'm guessing a few maybe who are on tonight, maybe got to see it live as well. But it's not any less interesting the second time. In fact, you made me think more. But it's funny because Valerie asked me, hey, could you share a little bit about why you asked me to do this? Because I had asked her, she had not assembled her presentation and then showed it to me. And I said, oh yeah, please share it. It was more just the way she's taught it and these principles that she teaches. Before she delineated them 1 through 7, I had asked her to share that at convention because number one, I think it needs to be shared at every single soul convention. It's true, it will be a tad different in terms of the exact detail, probably every time that it's taught. But I've known Valerie for lots of years. And it's interesting that you ended with principles, Valerie, because principles that you shared today, I don't think have ever changed in your time helping people. But I think that Soul and the way we were able to formulate and organize aligned with your principles. And you really have been a huge part, Valerie and a few others, but I don't think anyone more than Valerie, in terms of really showing us, being able to describe the mission that we so strongly want to carry to really kind of the whole world, not just our own communities. The needs are super urgent. That's an understatement right now. That is interesting. I love that quote about, I don't like that it exists, about all the chronic illness, but I love that you included it because it's another reason why I wanted people to hear you teach this. Because I look at those principles that you went through, they kind of can look a little basic. I don't know if a person could look at them and go, okay. And they kind of look just sort of normal. I don't know, maybe because we're around it with Soul, but they're not. And I do think it is a real stretch for people to change our whole approach to a more foundational approach, to a more integrated approach. It's a real stretch. We're so trained to deal with the withered leaf. And we got to try to fix that branch, that the withered leaf, looking for aphids on it, or whatever it is. We got to find those aphids. And that was the best I could do, Valerie, jump on your analogy. But did you know that ladybugs, I learned that you have aphids on a tree, go get a bunch of ladybugs, put them on the tree and they solve the whole thing. But anyway, that really has nothing to do with what I'm sharing. But I do think that we all need to not only hear it, but reminded of it. That was the other thing I wanted to share. I mean, I've been doing this for a lot of years, but here we are coming up on our 10th year at Solle. And every time I hear that, it does cement certain things in my mind, both behaviors that I want to maybe work on for myself in terms of how I use products, and also how I share it and how I teach it with others. So I just so strongly believe that this foundational approach and affirmations about a really good system, because I can just tell you this, we do buy just the premium stuff. There are tons of options with herbs. There are always a lot cheaper options. I know our products will be a little higher in price because we buy all the expensive ingredients. We don't say, oh, we'll get one expensive one and fill it up with cheap ones. That's pretty common in the industry. Lead with a nice ingredient, throw in some other stuff so the label looks beautiful. Because we believe in integrated health and that we believe the mind and emotions respond like everything else, the quality has to be there. The one thing that I shared in my presentation at convention about the 4 signature drinks, which dovetails a little with Valerie's presentation tonight, because it talks of balance and a simpler approach, because a foundational approach is kind of sometimes so obvious, it's too simple and people think, oh, yeah, I'm just going to spend a bunch on that, on some nondescript thing. I want to spend my money right on the branch. That's, I don't know. It's just human nature and it's okay. But it does take a lot of education to sort ourselves around to looking at the way Val does. I really just want to validate what she said. I promise you that as I work with Blake, we have a weekly operations meeting, and she showed a picture of Blake. He's a person with a high degree of integrity, and it is not easy to always chase down the high quality stuff. And in fact, I will tell you, he's even improved upon some of the raw materials. This sounds funny because we have very defined specifications, but as we're able to see more and learn more, that is, as the industry and science progresses, then we're able to step up even further in some things. And I'll let you know as we talk about some new products coming forward. But that is the effort of always being committed to premium. So anyway, that's probably more than you wanted, Valerie, but I do really appreciate this. You know what I wish this were? Every new specialist, because it's not too long, this presentation. If every new specialist who is getting that specialist account, truly intending to share it with somebody else, if they could watch this and think about it, and then maybe ask you questions or their mentor, because I know I've seen some mentors on here who know all these principles that Valerie's teaching. Boy, I think we would be that much further ahead in helping people if we could watch this. So reason number 3, I asked her to do it at convention. I think we all need to hear it, and we need to hear it again. And at least I do. I'll speak for myself.
Thank you, Craig. And that was actually kind of a great lead in also. Next week, we're going to talk about product quality, and this will be our Q&A session too, which is not recorded. And I'll have Greg will be sharing some of the information about what Blake is doing and the exciting things that are happening at Solle. And then we will open it up for Q&A.